Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining DC Villages for our community conversation as part of our emergency preparedness series. Are you prepared? Are you ready? September is Emergency Preparedness Month, so it's really timely and great that we have Sharon Pellum from the Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Administration of DC Health here with us today. Ms. Pellum's going to give us a good overview of emergency preparedness, what you need to know, what you need to think about, and just so you can make sure that you feel prepared and ready for whatever unfortunate situations may and hopefully won't occur. My name's Carter Ross. I'm working with DC Villages. Dr. Katrina Polk is the executive director and unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. So just want to give her greetings and welcome to everybody. And I want to thank all of our partner villages across the city. This presentation is being recorded and it will be up on DC Villages YouTube channel, which if you go to youtube.com/@DC Villages, you'll be able to find this recording and other ones from this series and our other series that we are putting on. So thank you very much. And I'm going to hand things over to you, Ms. Pellum.
All righty. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. As Carter said, my name is Sharon Pellum. I work for the I don't even know where I work. Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Administration. So we are the preparedness side of DC Health. And my job here is the volunteer coordinator. So if you went to, a vaccination site or a testing site and you saw the people out there, that was done by me. It was done by the volunteers, but I got them out there. So I am going to talk to you about emergency preparedness since it is Emergency Preparedness Month, but emergency preparedness should be every month, not just, let's just take 1 month out of the year to think about emergency preparedness. So we are going to get started and I'm going to ask you if you are prepared. So if you have any questions while I'm doing the presentation, feel free to ask. You can wait till the end, whatever is your pleasure. So we are going to get started. And I actually have one of my colleagues in the room with me. That's Lavinia Attaway. And you may have seen her at a testing site or a vaccination clinic during COVID. So you can all see the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so welcome. As I said, I'm Sharon Pellum from What is an Emergency? Are you prepared for an emergency? Making a disaster plan, additional considerations, coping with stress, and we have some additional information as well. All righty. What is an emergency? It's any event, any emergency that puts lives and property at risk. So we have fire, floods, chemical spills, terrorism, pandemics, and there are so many more. So can someone tell me another emergency that they've experienced or they can think about?
Yes. I can.
Okay.
We had one this summer where there was a criminal thing happening. A guy brandished a gun and was locked in an apartment. And the response was as if we had a terrorist group here. We had these big black vehicles that had ladders on top and police all over, and you couldn't drive through. Anyway, it was really a big, and we didn't know where were we at risk and how were we at risk and all that. But anyway, it took over the neighborhood for about 6 or 8 hours.
I think I remember that, and that is a really scary thing. And the sad part about that is going on a lot. So another training you may want to consider if you haven't already taken it is active shooter training. And I know they have that in the schools now, I'm sure in a lot of businesses. So if that is something DC Village would be interested in, I could try to find some training information for you all if that's something that you guys would think would be useful to you. Anyone else?
Yes. Hello. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, Wendy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hi. Also, I remember, I heard recently from more in the Southwest right now, but about heat emergencies and power outages that apparently aren't specifically part of emergency laws right now. But I remember when we had the derecho here, it was a lot of years ago, maybe 15 or 20, and we had a week of heat and no power. People were going to places to get dry ice, and it's very rare here, but maybe more something that will happen more in the future.
So my car, bless his heart, was flooded out twice. And one was because of the derecho, and the other one was because we just had this weird that came through. And the gentleman that lived across the street from me, the rain was so strong, like it tipped his refrigerator over, his couch was upside down, like it was really bad. And who would have thought that we would have had that? So yeah, that is an emergency you don't really think about, but you need to be prepared for. I'm from California and I've been used to wildfires forever. But because this area is dry, then that's a possibility for this area as well. We talked about floods, chemical spills. There are trains that run through DC that have all kinds of chemicals in them, and you would never know that, but they're, yeah. So that's a possibility. And we already talked about the pandemic, and we have terrorism, domestic terrorism going on, not necessarily here in DC, but all around. And hopefully that won't get to DC, but you never know. And that's where active shooter training would be a good idea. Anybody else have any other emergencies they could think of?
I think that derecho was in 2012 because it tore the roof off part of our building.
Oh, wow. Yep, that sounds about right. The other things that we have are ice storms, which are rare, but we do get them, and snowstorms. So, fall is here, but winter is coming. And I'm just going to have Lavinia say something about heat emergencies.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm in the midst of talking to older adults about extreme heat. So we're doing a presentation, or have been doing a presentation for the last 3 weeks, and just putting it out there about how to stay safe and cool during an emergency extreme heat. So that's about it. So that's another one to talk about, extreme heat. We have DOEE, which is Department of Environmental Energy, and they're also doing a presentation about how many days a year that we're going to have extreme heat weather, right? So they're projecting by 2030, we're going to have more days than ever, by that time, and days will be added here on. And I'm like, wow, that's something to really think about and kind of prepare for, especially for our older adults.
Did you say 2030? Like 6 years from now?
Yes, yes, days will be added. Far as, because we had a lot of hot days this summer, right? It was like extreme. The heat was so extreme, like maybe for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm thinking. So they're projecting by 2030, more days will be added to that. So if you like, I can send you that information so that you can look at it.
Yeah, we will put that information in there so you all will have that. Thank you, Lavinia.
You're welcome.
All right, on to the next. So, are you prepared for an emergency? So, you think you'll get ready for a snow emergency or a heat emergency or whatever emergency may come up. But once you have prepared for any emergency, that will help you pretty much in all emergencies. Oh, and the other thing that goes under emergency is extreme cold, as well as who would have thought there would have been an earthquake that did some damage in DC. I'm used to earthquakes. So when that came, I was like, I think the building is shaking. So I get under my desk, right? Because that's what I've been doing since I was a little kid in California. The senior deputy director at the time comes down the hall and was like, everybody get out of the building. And I'm thinking, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. But who am I? So I left the building too. And we get outside and people are crying and shaking. And I'm like, what's really going on here? But if that's not something you're used to, like I'm not used to a tornado. So if a tornado came through here, I would probably have the same reaction, but that just kind of caught me by surprise. So, but yeah, once you are set for one emergency, you can use that for all your emergencies. All righty. Let's see here. So, the first thing you need to do is make a disaster plan. So, communication is key. So if you live with someone, then involve them in the planning process so they'll know what's going on as well. If you don't live with anybody, let someone else outside of your building know what's going on. When you're planning your like emergency escape or whatever, if you live with someone, then let them know, hey, if something happens in the building, we're going to leave the building. We're going to meet by the big tree on 14th and K, right? So say you have someone that helps you and that person has gone to the store and something happens and you have to leave. They come back, they can't find you, but they know to meet you at the big tree on 14th and K. So communication is really big during an emergency. So you need to know how to contact someone if you are separated. And the one thing that I did find out, I'm sorry.
This is Pat Clark from Glover Park. Since we also want to pass on what you're telling us and help people make plans in our villages, is there anything, I guess we'll probably get this stuff from you, but is there any extra layer of this stuff that you can address when we're trying to organize other people into doing this?
So yes, there's actually at the very end, there are a bunch of links that will link you to communications plans, disaster kits, all of that.
Oh, thank you.
So during the earthquake, all the lines were down and you could not get anybody within the metro area, but I was able, for some odd reason, to get someone in California. So sometimes when you're right here, the phones don't work. But if you have somebody that lives in California, Wisconsin, South Dakota, North Dakota, you can get them much easier than somebody that lives in Arlington, Virginia. So just keep that in mind. Home preparedness. So prepare your home as if you are staying there or whether you have to leave in a hurry. So when we talk about preparing your home, if you have to leave, make sure your stove is cut off. Make sure you're not running the water. Anything that will mess up your home if you leave. When you're sheltering in place, the same thing kind of goes into play. If you I don't know, if you're cooking and you feel the earth move beneath your feet, turn your stove off. So anything that will mitigate you losing your property in the midst of an emergency. So make a disaster kit, and we'll go over that in just a minute. Special needs. Think about anything that you need, your medications, your walkers, your cane. So when I go on travel, the first thing I make sure is packed is my medication. If I leave my bathing suit, if I leave my sunblock, if I leave anything else, those things can be easily bought. If I leave my medication, not so much. And that the same thing goes for if you have to leave your home. So during Hurricane Katrina, we had a lot of people come in from different different places, and that was the main problem. They got out and they had left their medication. So we tried to backtrack, call their pharmacy. A lot of them didn't know exactly what pharmacy or where the pharmacy was located. So that's a good thing to have. Just write down on a piece of paper all the medications that you take, when you take them, where the pharmacy is located. If you know your pharmacist, their names, and put that in your disaster kit. And that way, if anything should happen and you can't grab your medication, and you're separated from it, at least there's a starting point. And first aid. So, how many people are trained in first aid and/or CPR? Great, great. That's always a good skill to have, because even if it's like a minor scrape or burn or something, you can treat that. And CPR is a lifesaver, so that is also something good to have. All righty. So we just talked about briefly a disaster kit. You can call it a disaster kit. You can call it an emergency kit. You can call it I gotta hurry up and get out of here kit, whatever kind of name you want to give it. Just make sure you have one, and try to store everything in like one or two airtight containers or whatever you're going to use to get yourself and your kit out of the house. Um, so there's a link. It's ready.gov, and that will give you a list of things you need. But some of the things that you really need are food and water. So when you are doing your non-perishable foods like your canned beans, your canned SpaghettiOs, anything like that, make sure that you have a can opener for your canned goods, because that does you no good to say, oh, look, I can eat these beans, but I can't open the beans. And you should have enough for everyone in your house for at least 3 days. And then when something happens, you or whomever can just pick up your kit and go. Now, that's for your house, but some of us older people still work. So have a kit at your job, because you never know when something might happen and you may have to shelter in place, and they may not have the food to give you. So at the least, have something you can eat, have some water, change clothes. So make sure you have something for your job. And then if you still drive, make sure you have something for your car, because I'm sure you guys remember a few years ago when people were stuck on 495 for hours, for hours. So, if you have some snacks, you have some water, you have a blanket, you need an emergency kit for your car as well. So these are some additional considerations. We just talked about driving, but there are some older adults that don't drive or may have mobility issues. So don't forget your walkers, canes, extra eyeglasses. So I wear glasses, and before I had surgery, Like I could not see an inch in front of me. So if you slapped me up beside the head and we went to court and I had to identify somebody, I could not. But now that I've had eye surgery, I can make it without my glasses, but I still need glasses. And if you have two pairs of glasses, that's even better because what if you lose one while, you're leaving for the emergency? So find out what the accommodations around the shelters may have to go to. Find out first where those might be located and then what kind of accommodations they have. Because if you have a service animal like below, a lot of public shelters don't allow for pets, for service animals. Um, it's important to know where you would what you would do with your pet if you had to leave. A lot of people, whether it's a flood, a earthquake, or whatever it may be, that they won't leave if they can't take their pets. So make sure you have a plan for your pet. If your grandchildren come and stay with you for an extended time, make sure you have a plan for your grandchildren. That could be, you have some extra treats in your disaster kit. You have some puzzles, some games, some whatever would keep your grandchildren occupied. So, life every day is stressful enough. If you still work, the stress of working. Does someone have a question? No? Okay. So if you find yourself being stressed during a emergency or after emergency, talk with other people because they may be feeling the same way that you feel. I know after the earthquake, the employees got together and they were talking, and I just listened because I had been through several earthquakes, and I tried to tell them, oh, it's okay, and you may not have another earthquake for another 30 years, but definitely talk with others, talk with the people in your villages, talk with your family, and let them know, hey, this really upset me, and I'm still kind of afraid. Keep your normal routine so that you can regain a sense of control and security because, that earthquake was just a one-time thing. So don't let that, have you thinking about it every day. So keep going with your normal routine. And this should not be just during or after emergencies, but take care of yourself. Always eat a variety of healthy foods, get enough exercise, and definitely get enough rest. And then if you still need help, seek assistance from community programs and resources. Talk to your healthcare provider, and they can recommend a mental health advocate for you if you need that as well. And this is some additional information that you can go to. As you can see, ready.gov/kit will show you everything that you need that needs to go in your kit. So that is my presentation. I left plenty of room for any questions you may have or anything that you think may need to be added that I didn't go over, but that you still have questions about.
If you were going to, this is Patricia Clark, if you were going to roll this out like we hope to in our village, or we've started to, but we need to do more. Is there any particular order of things that you would recommend?
I would definitely recommend your communications plan and the disaster kit. That is something that you really, really need to have because you just never know what is going to go on. Um, so those would be my top two recommendations. And like I said, when you do your disaster kit, if you don't remember anything else, put a couple of doses of medication in your disaster kit and make sure you notate everything. So if they need to reach the pharmacy to get you more medications, then you can absolutely be prepared for that.
That makes me think instead of throwing out the little medication bottles, I'll start saving an empty one of each and put a few pills in it. That'll go in my.
Yes, yes. And Lavinia just mentioned,
Pet.
oh,
If you have a
pets.
pet,
Yep.
make sure you have some food and stuff that your pet might like, such as a favorite food, favorite treats, and also water, like a bottle or two of water for your pet as well.
Thank you, Lavinia.
You're welcome.
Let's see.
So,
Yes.
Ms. Pellum, yes. So also thinking about in emergencies, you mentioned how it's hard to maybe get a cell connection to call someone locally. What other outlets do you suggest people tune to or try to find to be able to get reliable information during a crisis time?
Oh, great question. So I know, and I don't know if this is a younger people thing or I'm not sure, but a lot of people rely on social media, and sometimes that is not the best thing. So I would recommend to get your information from a reliable news source like Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 9, WTOP. And when you look at ready.gov/kit, they will have in there that you need a crank radio, any kind of radio that will get you information, because if your electricity goes out, then TV can't see the TV. But if you have a crank radio or battery operated radio, you can still get information. Just make sure you have the batteries, that the batteries are good, so you can get your information that way as well.
When we had that big, active shooter or whatever you want to call it thing, we did have electricity. Or no, am I thinking? Oh no, it's when we had a kind of a tornado last August in 2023, and we lost electricity. We had a generator, so we had electricity, but there was nothing. There was no cable, so you still couldn't get any of the information sources that you would normally get if you had TV or internet or whatever.
Which is why it's always important to have a radio.
Exactly.
Or
Yes.
your I'm trying to think if your cell phone might still work to be able to get some kind of information. But with that being said, if you don't have a power bank, make sure you get one. Keep it charged, and that way, if the charge goes out in your phone, you can connect to your power bank and have some juice.
That's a portable thing?
Oh yes, it's like so you buy it, you charge it, and then you can charge your phone with the power bank. So that's always a good thing. Even if you travel, that's a good thing to have. I was coming back from California, for some reason, the power just drained out of my phone. So I had like 5%. And I had to get up to pay to get out of the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, how is this going to work if my phone has gone dead? And luckily, I had just enough to be able to get out of the parking lot because, of course, I'd left my charging cable in the rental car. So that didn't help. So just make sure that you have a power bank, whether you are going on travel, even just in the house, because you never know. The electricity could go out when it's not even an emergency. So if you don't have a power bank, invest in one. And they're not very expensive. Let me check the chat to see if I have any questions that need to be answered. Yep. So Ms. Lister said texting is usually the most reliable phone-based way to communicate when networks are overwhelmed. That is correct. Okay. And Carter put in a lot of links as well.
Right.
Any other questions or anything you think Hepra or myself may be able to help you with?
Could you give an overview of what your agency department does? Is it primarily these sort of public messaging and to help inform people, or is there a broader mission you can talk about?
So that's a lot of it. So one of our larger missions is to be able to open up a pod, which is a point of dispensing site. So in the event of, let's say, an anthrax attack, and actually giving out the vaccines for COVID was actually a pod, but it is to get the medication into the people. So for anthrax, we would set up the pods and you come and get your Doxy or your Cipro. And that is really one of our bigger missions. The other mission is to coordinate different entities throughout DC Health in the event of an emergency. We have what is called our HEC, our Health Emergency Coordination Center. And that's where we would bring people from DC Health as well as other agencies to coordinate what we would need to get done in the event of an emergency or a disaster. Part of that is volunteer management. Like I said, I'm the volunteer coordinator, so we would have volunteers out there to assist with whatever the mission may be. Our next mission will probably be inauguration. So we do inauguration, State of the Union, any type of NSSC, National Special Security events. We oversee that along with HSEMA, which is the Homeland Security Emergency Management Agency for DC.
Could you tell us what the other programs that are taped and that Carter sent us a link to them, what they're about?
So we have CHA, that is our Community Health Administration, and they deal with like the WIC program. They have the nursing portion of DC Health. What else does CHA have down there?
They have like a cancer bureau.
Oh yeah, Cancer Bureau.
As well as the breast. Do they still have that? The breast, where they give out referrals to go to different places to get your mammogram. I know they had it once before.
Yeah, they have. I'm not sure they still have that. I know they have tobacco cessation. They try to get you to stop smoking. So that's the Community Health Administration. We have the Office of the Director, which includes our Human Resources, our Office of Community and Community Office
of Community Communication.
Office of communication so that, they vet everything that goes out of DC Health to make sure that it is proper and, we're not defaming anybody or anything like that. We have HOSTA, which is HIV, AIDS, hepatitis, tuberculosis, sexually transmitted diseases administration. So they deal with all of that. We have the Office of Health Equity to make sure that everyone is getting good health care across the board. You have HEPRA, CHA, HOSTA, Health Equity.
Sure. And then HERLA.
Oh, HERLA, Health Regulations and Licensing Administration. So they do all the licensing for the doctors, the nurses, anybody that has a license or a certification within DC. And HEPRA also does certifications for our EMTs and paramedics, and they actually, oversee the schools that teach that. We have David Herring, who does the inspections on all the ambulances, the helicopters, the fire trucks, all of that. And I don't think I missed anybody.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'd just say, Pat, we for the previous webinars we've done in this series, we've had the DC Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency talking about Ready DC, and had the DC Office of Unified Communications talking about DC 311 and 911 systems. We've also had the Health Equity Office, which Ms. Pellum mentioned, talking about immunization updates for adults. And our next session is going to be on September 17th. So next week, looking at respiratory viruses that are starting to work their way through the community again, and what you need to know and how to prepare yourself so that you don't come down with COVID or RSV or the flu.
Okay, thank you. You've both given us a lot to think about.
Well,
I just want to say I really appreciate getting it in a nice little nutshell like this with all the links and everything. It's really going to help us a lot.
Oh, good. I had 555 slides, and I was thinking nobody wants to see 555 slides. So I tried to be as concise as possible, but giving you all the information that you would need.
Do you dare give us your phone number?
Oh, I can give you my phone number as well as my email address. I should have put that on the front of the slide. So you can reach me at Sharon, SHARON .Pellum, P as in Paul, ELLUM as in Mary, at dc.gov. And my phone number is 202-671-0806.
06 was the end?
I'm sorry, say that again. I'll put it in the chat.
I just both into the chat.
Oh, he just did. Okay.
Okay, good.
So you can save the chat and you'll be able to have it right there as well as all the links and everything.
How do you save chat? I didn't know you could save the chat.
So in the chat window, where is it? Of course, I say that, and so you hit the little button that now that's upload. The three little dots up at the top of the chat window. There's save chat as an option right there.
I don't know where it went, but I guess it's saved.
Yep, it saves it usually to your documents folder. But yeah, and I can email you a copy of the chat afterwards, Pat.
Okay. Thank you. But that's helpful for other calls because people put things in at the very end of the call and then Boom.
Well,
So if any of the agencies see this and come back and correct me on this is what we do and this is not what we do, then I already stand corrected. Um, but I think I got them all.
Well, we won't know the difference, so it's fine.
Oh. So yeah, if you have any other questions, comments, feel free to contact me if there's anything that we can do to assist the DC villages, then let us know.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Holland. We really, really appreciate you coming here and sharing this valuable information with everybody. And we'll get this up onto the DC Villages YouTube channel and be able to share it out to all across all of our villages even further. So thank you so much, and hope everybody starts double checking their emergency kits and refreshes it if it's a bit old. Make sure those batteries are up to date, and the pet food isn't stale.
And every 6 months, just change out your canned food. Keep an eye on your expiration dates. And while you're doing that, you can check your batteries. Don't forget your extra battery charger. So yeah, and that should all be in the ready.gov /kit information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye.